collaborators, and contributors, the University of Hawaii Center on Disability Studies, Hawaii Statewide Family Engagement Center, the Hawaii Department of Education, Parent Community Network Centers, and of course, my benefactor and the people that pay my paychecks, Kamehameha Schools, who have made this possible and made this conference free to all. So we really want to thank you folks, and thank you to those amazing partnerships. With individuals vested in the work, anything is possible. So mahalo. Lastly, I want to thank all of you that have joined us here today. We know that you are all very busy, and we are humbled by the turnout and response. We ask for your continued grace through the day, dealing with unforeseen technical issues, and most of all, dealing with me as your host, because we are expecting over 1,300 attendees throughout the day, going in and out of rooms and enjoying our experience. So again, we thank you so much. To go over some of those tips that we were talking, technical tips, remember about muting your mic because of the feedback. We're going to ask you just to turn off your camera if you're not feeling like showing your beautiful bright faces this morning. And of course, if you have any questions throughout the day regarding technical tips, any links that may not be working correctly, or any other questions that you may have throughout the day, please go ahead and email that to ohanaengagement@ksbe.edu. Again, that's OHANAENGAGEMENT, one word, at ksbe.edu. And there's individuals on the back end that's going to be there to help you guys and help answer some of those questions. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to go. To officially start off a day, I would like to invite a very good friend of ours and an extension of our Ohana engagement team member to offer pule, or a prayer of a blessing, to open up our conference event. I'd like to welcome Mr. Michael Melly.
Aloha kako, e ho'omalo kako. Our dear Father in heaven, we bow our heads humbly before thee this day to offer our gratitude for the many blessings that thou hast given us. We are indeed grateful for the chance that we have to be together to participate in this historic Ohana Engagement Conference, to sit at the feet of these wonderful leaders of ours, Dr. Seabury, our Yokozuna Konishiki later on, and all the panelists and all the facilitators and the presenters throughout the day. We're so very grateful for them and for them taking their time to be with us today, to share their mana'o, to share their ike, so that we can better uplift ourselves, our ohana, and our lahui, and our kaiaulu, wherever we may be. We ask the blessing be upon them, be upon their families as they're away from them, that they may be safe and protected. We ask the blessing be upon all those who are participating today throughout the globe, that they may have a rich experience, that they may be able to feel of the love and the aloha that our presenters have for them as they uplift and sustain their families and their communities wherever they may be across the globe. We express our heartfelt, deep appreciation and gratitude for our beloved Princess Kelly Pauahi Bishop, Bernice Pauahi Bishop, for the love and the foresight that she has, and for the vision and the mission that the organization has. And we pray thy spirit might be with us as we go throughout this conference, that we may take away those very important principles and lessons that have been presented to us, and that we may apply it into our lives immediately and as practically as we can. We're very grateful for our roles as children of Pauahi, as careholders and caretakers and of her vision and her mission. We pray thy spirit might be with us as we go throughout this day, that we may always have the spirit of aloha with us wherever we may be. Bless those who might be sick or otherwise afflicted, especially during this pandemic, that they may feel of thy love and feel of thy concern and thy loving arms around them. We pray that thy spirit might lift them from their beds of affliction, so that they may begin their health recovery. We're grateful again for all that we have. We ask that thou will continue to watch over us this day. And these things we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Mahalo Nui, Michael. And might I say, buddy, you're looking very handsome this morning, so we really appreciate you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Lauren Name, the VP of Strategy and Transformation, to offer a few words Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, and mahalo to both Kaleo and Michael for really grounding us and setting us off in the right spirit and energy. So mahalo to you. Valina Maikako, on behalf of our amazing Ohana engagement team who have poured their blood, sweat, and tears in the last several months to prepare this for you, and also from our amazing partners, the University of Hawaii Center on Disability Studies, Hawaii Statewide Family Engagement Center, and the Department of Education. Mahalo for saying yes to this amazing gathering and for being willing to dive in and engage amidst such bounty of wisdom, deep love, care, and hearts of generosity to share what we know and connect, not just for today, and probably more importantly, but for the days ahead. There's no mistaking that we're in very serious and pivotal times, but we have a choice. We really can move together. The theme for today, E Ulua'e, exemplifies what we believe is the most important lever point, our Ohana, our schools, and their importance within their communities toward whole health and wellness. And today, all of you are saying yes to learn, to share, and partner in this movement that needs to plant deeper and go wider. And we have that chance today with 1,300 of you who span Hawaii and the continent, and maybe even beyond that, to experience the deep expertise and wisdom from all of our presenters. We also have 23 breakout sessions, which are amazing opportunities to make connections that we are praying continue beyond today to bear more fruit. There's also mele during lunchtime that you can enjoy with your me'ai. And we have a powerful opener of our day with Dr. Aukahi Austin Seabury, who is an esteemed Oiwi leader and practitioner in holistic wellness, and an amazing closer in our very own globally known and loved Konishiki. What's been brought together today brings me so much hope in our future. Just look at our program, and despite the deficit narratives we hear and sometimes play in our own minds, we see today that we have what we need in Hawaii to get back on our feet, lock arms, and charge forward together healthy and happy. Aloha nui loa and enjoy your day. Mahalo.
Mahalo Nui, Lauren, and what an amazing way to start the day. And again, mahalo to all of you that have made this possible and are joining us for the event. And again, to Mark for his amazing assistance in bringing this to all the individuals that we have today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, who is a close family friend of mine, who the Austin Ohana has welcomed me into their house many of times. It is an opportunity for me to really brag about this amazing individual. She's an extension of our KS Ohana, as well as so many here in the audience today. Dr. Austin Seabury is a licensed clinical psychologist and the executive director and co-founder of Ola Lahui, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides behavioral health services throughout the state with its team of providers. She received her PhD in clinical psychology from our very own University of Hawaii at Manoa. Dr. Austin Seabury has received numerous awards of distinguished teaching and services to rural communities across the state from the Hawaii Psychological Association. She provides training in the use of culture, mind, and evidence-based practices and works as a consultant providing facilitation, strategic planning, team building, training, and of course, evaluation processes, or services and processes to Native Hawaiian health and education organizations. She's a member of Nali Mahana or Lonopua Native Hawaiian Health Consortium, and she is an Olapa of Halal o Ke Ali Kumakani under the amazing gentleman and our very favorite or our own Kumuhula Manu Boy. Dr. Austin Seabury recently authored an article in Oha's Kawai Nui Ola, on Hawaiian health, on health of Native Hawaiians in the face of COVID, and we're happy to throw those links up. Speaking with you today, put your hands together for our very own and our awesomeness, speaking on Ohana in the time of COVID, what holds us together and sees us through. Put your hands together and help me to join Dr. Aukahi Austin Seabury. Go ahead, Tita. We love you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Aloha mai no, aloha kawai puana, aloha kako, velina ke aloha, everybody. Welcome. Happy Friday morning, y'all. We got this. It's from here to the end of the day. It's going to be a sprint to the weekend. I'm so excited to be here, to be part of this Ohana conference. Is just a super big pleasure for me. And especially this week and at this time, it feels like the right time to be talking about us kako as a family. So let's dive, shall we? Let's have fun today. So just so you know, by the time we're done here with me talking with you all, I'm hoping you have a really good idea of how you're going to navigate your day today and what you are going to collect of these experiences to put in your pu'olo to take with you, to energize your weekend, to energize your work moving ahead, and hopefully to feel reinvigorated in the wonderful role you play in our lahui. Okay, so let's boogie, shall we? Okay. So this was the topic I came up with. And when I was picturing what would I say to Ohana? What would I say to folks that work with children in the face of COVID? What would I say to all of us? The first image that came to mind, oh, that's me, is one kahakaha. So I'm going to paint a picture for you to take a moment. On Hawaii Island in Kea'au, there is a place called Ha'ena that is, for many of you, probably quite familiar because of its cultural significance in hula, as the place where Hi'iaka and Hopoi still hang out today. But it's a place that I've had the privilege to go with my halau on many occasions. That's not too far from Kea'au campus, actually, for those Kamehameha folks. And the thing about this place is it's one of those where the spirit of it descends upon you the minute you get there. So you can just feel it when you arrive. The air feels different. The light lands different. The kai that is there, the kahavai that flows right into it, all of it tell you that you are in a place that's a pico of energy and a pico of magic. And so the thought that came to mind was not all of this magic and wonderful and the masterful storytelling that we hear there and the hula that is inspired by being there, but the one kahakaha. So one of the special things about this place in Ha'ena is that there are two kinds of one there. So this sand is there is both black and white sand there. And so what happens is every time the ocean ebbs in and flows out, the shape, the patterns, the design in the sand changes. Every time the water flows, it changes. And this is the one, the sand kahakaha. So it's all designed and drawn. It's got these patterns all over it. This is the picture that comes to mind for me when I think about COVID. Because it feels like every few hours, minutes, days, weeks, months, the water ebbs and flows and it looks a little bit different. The design has changed yet again. And we're all left to figure out what to do. And the Ohana piece of this is the one I want you to ponder. What on earth does that have to do with Ohana engagement? Okay, so think about one kahakaha as we jump into our conversation. So we're going to do a quick COVID temperature check. And I just want you to do this for yourselves. Feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to, or just make a checklist for yourself. How many of you know someone that's been affected by COVID? Have experienced in the last 18 months a change in your daily schedule? Have experienced financial strain? Experienced either a blend of remote and in-person work, or never worked remotely at all the entire time, worked in person the whole way through? Have had to juggle childcare, work, and your own health? Have experienced loss? Have had too many conversations about the availability of sanitizing wipes and toilet paper? Have media overload? Have felt worn out or sad more this year? Miss hugging people? And how many of you have kept up with your exercise and healthy habits the entire time without fail? In fact, you're healthier than when all of this started. Yeah, I reverse score that one for you, evaluation folks. Okay, let's look at this another way. We're gonna each of us graph. Now I want you to draw the graph either because you have your quadrile line paper from 8th grade ready to go, or because you can use your hand to make it happen. Show me a graph of how your well-being has looked over the past 18 months. Is it okay? And it had a couple of dips and then it was going back up again. Oh no, we have to isolate again. Oh man, Delta, oh. So look at what it looks like for you over the past 18 months. And then what I want you to do is draw the lines of the people you live and interact with daily. What do theirs look like? Even just this last 5 days, I bet you could draw that. Well, today I was doing okay. Oh, but my kiddo was grouchy. And then my coworker was having a thing and oh, they were out sick. Oh, poor thing. Look at what all those lines look like together. Does it look familiar? a little bit like that one Kahakaha we were talking about, where all the lines, maybe it looks more like spaghetti. All the lines are moving up and down together. Ideally, you and your ohana and the loved ones would be moving all in sync, all nice and smooth, and very gently floating across the top of the graph. During COVID, it looks a little bit more like one kahakaha, everybody going all the different ways all at once. And I think that's the reason we're gathering for a conference right now. It's actually very well timed to stop and go, okay, this is bananas. How are we doing? And how are we going to get through this? And so I think that's what I wanted to talk with us most about today. Okay, in non-pandemic times, staying well as an ohana can be challenging. This is actually an image from Ho'oku Aina, for those of you who are familiar with that place-based learning site. And what we're doing here is what you don't see on the brochures. In every infographic we've ever seen about Hawaii that has the perfect kalo leaf with a baby one next to it, right? Those gorgeous, scenic, lush and green spots. This is me and my gang spreading fish guts because we're preparing a lo'i bed to be replanted again. And when you want it, you want to have rich and fertile soil. And so to do that, you take great big buckets of fish guts and you spread them all over these mud beds. Now, as you can imagine, that's not glamorous work. You might not make the cover of the brochure doing that, right? It's kind of smelly, it's definitely hot. Maybe you really like making mud pies. So picture that, it's like making mud pies when you're a kid, but entire whole beds of them. So the thing is being an ohana, a lot of times is about putting in the work. It's about the fish guts, right? That laundry you get done, the chores that you do, getting your kids to bathe and do their homework. It's about working with your team when everybody is tired of the next innovation and they don't want to hear about the new initiative, but you're the one that's got to see them through and make sure that during the team meeting, you're the one that keeps everybody on track so that we holomua, so that we don't go, why are we meeting again, right? That energy stays good. To do that, you've got to invest in doing those fish guts kinds of activities, right? It's not glamorous, but it's what you do because you have your eyes on the prize that in the long run, it keeps us all well. You put on your shoes and you go walking, even when you don't feel like it, right? Because if you don't, then maybe you won't be able to later. So you want to do it now. That's what we often do as ohana, always. That's not a pandemic thing. That's the nature of staying together as a family, is we all put in that work, not because it's for the brochure, it's not because it's glamorous, it's not because social media needs to see the perfect image of who we are, but because we're going to get it done because we are raising families. And we take that seriously. We put that at our center, right? So now let's add the pandemic. All of a sudden, COVID-19 has handed us more sources of stress. Now we need to be thinking about what are the daily infection rates and what is Delta. And we need to think about our personal safety in a different way than we usually do. We need to think about what are sort of lasting academic impacts for our kids and maybe childcare issues and also our own professional concerns, and how do we still get the same connection and outreach to happen in our work when we are limited in how much we can physically engage with people. I mean, we're Hawaii, we're an aloha people, right? We're a face-to-face people. We honi, we hug, we touch. So how do we do us in this space? There's a lot more sources of stress. COVID also has taken away many of our usual routes to stay well. So if you gathered with friends on Friday afternoons to talk about your weekend laugh, if you went to a gym to exercise and maintain your routine, if you dropped off your kiddo early in the morning at school on your way to work through traffic to get a good long day in and then get us home as soon as you can and make dinner, okay, that whole routine got scrambled sometime in the middle of COVID, right? Going to the grocery store got more complicated, right? Everything got a little bit harder. So all the routines that you might usually do to stay well maybe could have been affected by COVID. So we have more stress and a harder time accessing the things that keep us well. So then we had one more layer, and this was kind of the gut punch, the na'au part. All of a sudden, we were having to have more conversations about our values and priorities every day that we don't normally need to think about all the time. We're having conversations as families about safety and health on one hand, and the need for our children to have connection and emotional growth in the other. When was the last time we had to weigh those out in such a specific way? But we're having to do that over and over again, right? You encounter families trying to have conversations with one another about where did they land on how they're going to navigate COVID as a family. And it wasn't just about physical safety versus connection and emotional growth. There were other kinds of balance things, right? There was, okay, who's going to be in my bubble? And what's the implication of being someone who says, I'm sorry, I don't hug now? Did all of a sudden, because we needed to be safe and spreading less cooties into the air, were we going to stop our civility in the grocery store to say hello and help a kupuna reach a rice bag that's too high for them or too heavy? Were we going to stop doing all of those things that feel very much like us because of health and safety concerns? All of a sudden, our values were things we had to talk about and think about on a much more regular basis in a way that we typically don't in an average week or month. That was another source of burden for us, because now we have our now churning about what is right for us, right? We have our stress going because our to-do lists look totally different and we're having to problem solve and plan and cram things. And the behaviors that we normally do that keep it all in check, right? Oh, I'm gonna go sing under the moon with my friends in the backyard. I'm gonna, go to church. I'm gonna do these things. All of those were affected for a time and continue to be in some ways by COVID. So we had some really challenging math come at us in the last 18 months, and we're not done yet. I think that's the other piece, is we had what I'm calling vigilance fatigue, where, okay, when we were all doing this, remember, think back, March 2020, we all had to go on 4 weeks of shut the state down and it was gonna be fine. Come on, people, we're gonna hang together, or you're gonna participate in Lahui Kanaka and you're gonna malama your palama, and then everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna do it for a few months and it's gonna be pau. We were okay with that, right? We could just white knuckle it, hang in there. It was gonna be hard, but we were gonna get it done. The challenge is now, a whole year and a half later, asking ourselves to once again pull it back, be vigilant, be cautious, and to never have stopped doing that feels like a lot. We feel tired of being vigilant. We feel tired of having to problem solve the next thing and to promise ourselves, one day my kid will have a normal birthday party like the ones I knew. One day I will be back on the lawn of the Bishop Museum, listening to a concert with my friends, passing a bento across the lawn. One day. But telling ourselves that again 18 months later feels really hard, right? So that's the context. And one way to look at that is, okay, so what's the impact on your ohana? What's the impact? In some ways, what we can say is COVID magnifies what's there. Things that were mildly annoying or hard in your ohana suddenly feel like a giant deal. If you had a child care plan that didn't have 3 deep backups, that's going to be super evident by the time COVID got a hold of us, right? Because all of a sudden we find out, oh gosh, I need 4 and 5 backup plans because things change so often. What happens if there's an exposure? All of a sudden I've got to punt my next 2 weeks really quickly. How do I do that? It also magnifies our ability to communicate in our workplaces about our needs with our employers, with our teams, with the people we lead. All of the places that stress points could show up, those were magnified during COVID. I always like to say the seams start showing a little sooner, wherever they are. And that was for all of us. So COVID showed us. Now it also showed us, if we all have a really great sense of humor and are good at laughing under pressure, that showed up too, right? So did the things that said, oh, it turns out I actually do like my family, because when we get to spend all this extra time together, I still like them, right? So there's both the magnifying what's hard and also the magnifying the good. And there it is. So what's COVID's impact on our ohana? Well, all of it. It added pressure, it added stress, it took away some of our coping and forced us to do something different. It pressed on our na'au, and it magnified the nature of all of our relationships. Whatever they were, they're bigger and more. So here's what I want to say. If you hear nothing else that I say over the next few minutes, this is the thing I want you to take home with you. It's the first thing I want you to put in your pu'olo. We're going to talk about your pu'olo in a little bit. First thing I want you to put in there is, you're not failing or weak if this is hard or things have broken down at some point during all of this. You're not failing and you're not weak if things have broken down. Very clearly, the picture I've painted suggests this is not about mental toughness. This is not about the people that have their stuff together are fine and only the weak don't survive. That's not what this is. This is impossible math. This is systemically hard. It's not about failing. It's not about weakness. This is tough. Everyone's had some kind of something break down in the last 18 months. And if you are already on the edges and struggling, then you are further squished by all this. That doesn't mean you're not strong. Okay? That's the first thing. That's for all you parents out there who start to wonder sometimes. You're not failing or weak if this is hard. Okay, so how do we hold together? Because those are the two concepts that I want to think of for us to take with us today. Holding together and seeing it through. Those are the two things that I think are going to be the rails for all of us here. That's my kiddo when he was little. He don't look like that anymore, but that was him, and that's part of our tribe right there with him. So how do we hold together? Well, it turns out we're Hawaii. And what does that mean? It means we know how to do this. We lean on our strengths. So we have personal strength. So yes, we do. We can lean on ourselves to cope with uncertainty. We know what we do well with. You know if you're a person who is truly a go with the flow or a person who really needs a to-do list. So you got to know yourself. You lean on your family strengths. If this is not your department or you need to tap out for today, then we're going to tag in the other members of the tag team to be okay. And sometimes that means asking our keiki to step up in a different way than we used to. We might need them for that some days, right? I might need you to take care of that because today I don't have it in me to force you. We might need to lean on our social strengths. We're all about pilina, right? Our relationships everywhere matter to us, socially and professionally. So we're going to need to lean into those strengths. And that reminder is something that each of you can do individually. What are the things that I've got going for me? What are the things that I can lean on? The thing is I can hear the giant yes, but echoing in the hallways when you listen to that. But how do I lean on my social support when I can't go meet them at Foodland Farms? How do I lean on my extended Ohana when we're supposed to be bubbly? Right. So doing these things might have to look different now than it used to. It's not going to look the same. This is from the Lantern Festival. Yes, are you guys familiar that happens every year? Well, this can't happen right now because gathering thousands of people to remember the souls of those that have passed, that's not a good idea right now. So how do we lean on the strength of this activity and the spirit and intention of it when we can't necessarily do it the same way? That's where we're going to be challenged to put our energy. So holding together is going to be about figuring out how we make the same feeling and function happen in a different way. So, by the way, this is my kid's drawing of that event. So I figured you would enjoy. See, watch. Oh, that's how they really looked. And that's how he thought they looked. Okay. So we lean on our strengths. We just talked about that, right? You go with what you know. If you already know that stuff works for you, if you know that you would much rather connect with people and laugh with joy than you would be by yourself reading a book, then those Zooms you were doing so well in June 2020 might need to come back. Maybe that's what it is, or you're going to find another way to do it. You're going to have to find the strength and another way to get it done. Then you've got to find and add extra supports where needed. So what are the things that are needed because this is extra, right? COVID is extra, general. But all of these things I talked about, those added pressures and those reduced abilities to cope in all the ways you've always known, we've got to go find and add new things because maybe once you've gone in and you've added everything you know was ever really good for you. I know I need to walk every day. I know I need to greet the sun. I know I need to go back to praying. That made me feel so good. When I meditated, I was rolling. Whatever it is that used to keep you well, once you've added those back in, they may not be enough because remember, these are extraordinary times. So we've got to go find and add the extra supports where we need them. That might mean a whole lot of different things for people. It could be professional supports. It could be a change in your schedule. You could be someone who used to really not need routines that much, but all of a sudden you just need them. So whatever it is, you're going to find and add. These things for maintaining the well-being and glue for your ohana, they're not optional anymore. Remember 2019? If you didn't stop and do your gratitude, we do one great thing when it's time to go to bed. If you skipped one great thing that you share with each other every night before you go to bed, a couple times in a week, oh, we fell off wagon for a few weeks. Your family wasn't going to fall apart. Bring us to 2021. Those things that hold us together, we have to be much more intentional in holding on to. And then the last, and maybe the most important thing I want us all to remember is that our culture, Hawaii, the wisdom we have, the cultural practices we have, it has the depth and wisdom we need to handle this. So right when you think you've tried everything in your family's bag of tricks to cope with all of this, remember that there is depth and wisdom within our lahui that can help see you through. There's a whole universe of things that it can give you to help see you through this. And that's the thing. That's one of the most important things about realizing you're not alone, is you don't have to have all the good ideas this time. You're not doing this all by yourself. Okay, seeing it through. One more picture from a lo'i, because you know, we love the lo'i photos. And also I know there's a number of folks from IW programs joining us today. So just so you don't feel homesick and stuck staring at Zoom all day, I thought maybe some pictures. But again, here's another picture from the lo'i. What I want you to notice is this not the center of the patch that's all perfectly green and all of that. It's gorgeous. But see on the end there, there's some leaves that are a little yellow, reaching for the water. You see how there's some foliage that's growing there. Some of it's good for it, but a couple of those are weeds that some of you are just dying to pull because you know things need a little bit more air than they're getting. This for me is partly what I want you to think back to when we're talking about seeing it through. So we said, okay, we need glue. We need to hold on to the things we do, right? Holding together. Now let's talk about see it through. See it through is about stamina. How do we keep doing what we need to do? So thinking about that picture, we have an ideal in our head of what our ohana is supposed to look like, right? We have this picture of everybody thriving and doing well, and everybody has meaning and purpose, and they're all growing and knowing what they're supposed to do. And we sing kumbaya, and we do our eho mais every once in a while, and we're all awesome. And then we go and join our community, and we do service, and we gather, and we wear our iku mamau shirts, and we're all good, right? We have this vision of ourselves as part of a larger community, and it tends to be idealized. It tends to be sort of soft and fuzzy and glowing lights on the outside, us on our very best photo-ready day. And then there's the reality. And the reality is sometimes your kid wakes up grouchy. The reality is, I don't feel like gathering with everybody today. Today, I just want to be a little bit antisocial. The reality might be that sometimes work is hard and I'm not fit for humans after, right? And what I want you to see is that's kind of like those yellow leaves. Our family, it doesn't look perfect if what perfect means is everybody looking all green and photo ready all the time. But if you see those yellow leaves as perfect and beautiful too, and you go, me and my wacky, messy family with my living room I can't invite people into because it's messy today, that's beautiful, that's perfect, then yes, our ideal is not perfection in the unmarred sense. It's real, and that's what makes it perfect. If that's how we think of our families, flawed and magical, I think we're going to get somewhere in the seeing it through. Because if every time you see clutter and every time you see chores you wish you could do, or, oh, remember when I used to make homemade gifts for the teachers, all of that kind of thing, if every time you think of that, you think of yourself as struggling or failing, this is going to be a long another year, right? This is going to be a long road ahead of us. But if you see all those imperfections, kind of laugh about them and go, wow, here we go. You know, we're going to do our best. We're going to see ourselves as beautiful. I'm going to love my beautiful chaos. And I'm going to try again today. We're going to get somewhere. So we're going to see real as perfection. And yeah, we're still going to do the stuff families do. We're going to clear the weeds around things to help give them space to grow. COVID has been a big challenge because, you know, when we think about giving each other space, we have to do that in much smaller spaces until we remember that there's a whole wide outdoors out there that we can give each other space in. So when we clear weeds and we give one another emotional space, mental space, and physical space, those are the things that we think about. That's what an ohana's responsibility is to do for one another, right? Is to create space where people can thrive. It's just like what teachers do, create spaces where their kids can thrive. And to remember that we're all part of a larger system. So yes, that water was flowing past those yellow leaves and the green leaves of that particular lo'i bed, but it's also feeding and nourishing an entire system. And it's also dependent on what rain comes. And it's dependent on how much sunlight comes. And so once in a while, we need to look up and see the larger system at play. Now, in the context of COVID, every time we look up and look at the larger system, we go, boy, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 things that need to be worked on. And by the way, we should be working to be better humans and telling ourselves truths. Yes, and pandemic. All of those things were happening at the same time, right? We're having conversations about equity. We're having conversations about our use of land and natural resources. We're having all of these conversations all at the same time. Because at the end, it's all the same thing, right? It's see it through, it's do better and live our values. We couldn't be sitting there asking ourselves all these values questions about, you know, is health more important than connection, right? Safety versus emotional growth and learning. We couldn't be asking those questions and not hold ourselves to a higher standard in the world. We couldn't. And so it makes sense that all of that stuff is bubbling up together. So again, I'm going to point us back to what does seeing it through look like? Because, right, there was all this conversation about, okay, COVID challenged a lot of things about the health system. COVID challenged a lot of things about how Ohana run. And then we said, okay, so when it's over, are we just going back to business as usual? Or will we have learned from this time and made the changes we need to make for that better that we all vision together? So I'm going to say, do the things that you always knew you needed to do for the family that you want. It's hard work, mostly that nobody sees. You're spreading fish guts a lot now. In COVID, nobody sees it. It's fish guts. You're spreading, right? You're doing that. The progress can feel really slow. And sometimes it's hard to see the benefits and the outcomes. Every once in a while, you go to bed and I go, am I still raising my kid well? Even though we're eating more double stuff than we used to, you know, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Let me check. Sometimes it's hard to see if you're still walking that same path well. Sometimes when you look up, you feel inspired. You go, oh, look at our lahui. We're still hanging together. We're still thriving. Oh, look at that. I got to hear the greatest speakers in our lahui sharing all about themselves and their lives and their wisdom on Zoom in my pajama pants. I didn't even have to put on a good dress to do it. I love it, right? So there have been times and moments when we feel inspired and we feel like we look up and we go, wow, we're all still here. Remember how we all felt when we sang in unity about the mauna or about, you know, about our land and how much we love it. Remember all those times? We're still doing that same energy. We're just doing it separately. And that's the part we needed to navigate. Okay. So the last part of it, and the part that has to do with lots of lo'i knowledge, is knowing when it's the right time to act. And how do you know it's the right time to act, right? Because when you are a planter, you know there's certain times if you plant now, things will go better than if you plant later. You're going to get bigger leaves, you're going to get tastier kalo, all those things are going to happen. So knowing when it's the right time to act matters. For parenting, I want to say, and for Ohana, this is the same. Is today the day where we go, you know what? Today, we're just going to get by, we're going to get to bed, and it's going to be a good and peaceful evening. Versus today's the day where we have to have a hard talk about pulling ourselves together again because we haven't been using nice words with one another in a while. We're a little bit too teasy and not enough lovey. Are we going to have that hard talk today? Is today the right time for that? Is today the day that we're going to set new family goals to bring us back to our center because we've kind of gone off course? Picking that right time is going to be about listening to your gut and watching the rhythm of your ohana. Those are the things to do to see it through. Okay, now, what do you need today? Now, all of you decided that this was how you wanted to spend your fabulous Friday, right? Not checking your emails, not getting that monster to-do list done, but this. And so the question that I'm going to ask you today is to do that hold together and see it through thing for yourself today. And that's to ask yourself, what do you need to get out of this today? Out of these talks, out of these presentations? Is what you need information? You want to know what's happening in education and in our lahui. You just want to hear what's the hot stuff. Cool. You're going to get information. Do you want to fill in some gaps? You want to hear about what strategies people have and new ideas for you to consider. Is that what it is? You'd like to sort of be mentally stimulated and have your mind filled up with ideas. Or are you here because you need energy? You need to feel recharged. You need to feel like you want to start something new and this is going to give you that burst. This is the spark plug. Or is this that you want to be reinvigorated to keep the good stuff you've already got going on? That's the energy piece. Or Are you here for connection? Connecting to other people going through the same thing. So as you monitor the chat and you hear what the presenters are saying, that you know you're connected to a whole community of people living through things very similar to you. Is it that you want to feel connected to kupuna and culture and the ike, our ancient and traditional ike, as it lives in our modern world? Is that what you're looking for today, to be grounded in ike kupuna? Or are you looking to feel more connected to your ohana? Are you sitting there going, by the time this is over, I want to feel like I can't wait to get home tonight and talk to my gang about what I heard today. I can't wait to hear what crazy thing my son's going to say. I can't wait to hear what kind of argument my two daughters are going to get into. Whatever it is, think about what it is you need today. And make sure as you are collecting things, because you're going to be putting them in your pu'olo. Here is your great big beautiful batch. This is your tilis, this is la'i. You're going to pull those down and you're going to begin to collect things to put in for yourself. Each presenter is going to have information, energy, and connection that you can possibly gather. So remember which ones you need and seek those things. And remember, you might get something for right now. Something might hit you right in the heart right now. It's the moment you needed. It's something you just needed to hear. Something might remind you of a thing you already knew, but maybe you haven't been putting it in the front. And so maybe it just helps remind you to put it in the front again. Or it might give you something you got to think on later, like, okay, I got to think on that one because I like it. It messed with me, or it made me a little uncomfortable, but I think there's something useful going on there. So some for right now, some to remind you and bring it back to the front, and some to think on later. That's what I'm hoping that you will do with your experience today, is get what needs you have met during the time we're all together. Okay? That's the idea. That's how you make the most of this day, so that when you're po, you feel like you've drank enough. You got from this what you needed to be nourished. That energy, that information, and that connection. Okay, and by the way, don't forget to have fun today. So we have just a few minutes. I tried to save a few minutes here at the end. If anybody would like to comment, question, add something, the chat's been going wild. But in the meantime, if anybody feels like they'd like to, please go ahead and either drop it in the chat or say that you have a question, raise your hand. That's one way that we can pull you in, okay? And well, my gang, will you let me know if somebody's raising their hand? It's hard to see.
You got it, Doc. You got it.
Mahalo.
Thank you so much. You're so amazing, everybody. Go ahead and fill up those chats. And like she said, if there's questions that need to be posed for later, we know that Dr. You have so many comments and thoughts for Dr. Aukahi and celebrations for her. We will be transferring some of these notes, and she will have these. So questions, we can always address them. And of course, as we pass out any information later on in the coming weeks, along with those videos, we will happily post some of those answers to some of those questions. We do understand that we have so many, like Dr. Aukahi said, it is going wild, everybody. We love it. Thank you for all your warm wishes. That's really what we want to see. It's really about having fun and enjoyment. And again, thank you to Mark. You are amazing, buddy. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you so very much.
You know what? I was actually talking and I was like, I want to watch Mark do this when I say it. And he totally was peely with me, like his emotions, same as mine. I was like, this guy's magic. I'm telling you. But for those of you who want to ask me, okay, but how do you do that? Come follow me to the next room after this, okay? Because that's what we're going to talk about, is about how do you do that, okay? But in the meantime, I don't see any questions yet. Hey, my father-in-law's here.
Yes, extension of KS Ohana. That's right. Everybody, let's put our hands together in a nice warm round of applause and a virtual thank you to Dr. Aukahi Austin Seabury. We all know that she is so very amazing. It's such an inspirational and amazing way to kick off our morning. We know that we're so very grounded and we're ready to start our day. Remember, for those of you guys out in the audience, we do have the keynote survey, and we'll be dropping those links. That's to tell Dr. Austin Seabury how amazing she is, and not to say that you guys are already tired about hearing me. So again, that first link is to tell her how awesome and all those great things. And, you know, we welcome you to share. To go a little bit about our housekeeping of the day as we continue to have to throw all those things up in those comments. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Let Dr. Austin Seabury know how amazing she is and truly appreciate it. And even off to Mark, again, thank you so very much to both of you. Going over a little housekeeping items as we slowly transition and as we ground ourselves and we take a deep breath and we really allow to internalize the amazing messages that were shared with us. We'll just talk about a little bit of fun for the day and what we have in store. Again, we want to invite you to fill out that survey when it takes a chance and continue to flood those messages of aloha to Dr. Seabury. But what we will be doing is just highlighting again. Accessing those amazing access pass that our team has sent out to you, you folks do have seen, because I know many of you guys have been emailing us, you will have the opportunity to join up to 2 breakout sessions prior to lunch. And then following lunch, before our closing keynote, you guys have another opportunity to sign up. Again, depending on the keynotes you choose and the sessions that you choose, that might vary from time to time. But again, that's entirely up to you. Like Dr. Seabury said, it's what finds you and what you gravitate to and what is going to fulfill you for the day. And that's really what we want to invite you to do. At the 12 o'clock hour, there will be a break for lunch that will be featuring live melody music to stream for you and enjoy. It is amazing, ladies and gentlemen. That's live music. And we haven't had that for such a long time. And we want to welcome it and bring it into everybody's household today. So we will have some amazing artists. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, I will not be singing. So you guys will definitely want to sign on. We have true professionals. If you decide to jump off, though, and we do invite you to do so because we do know that you have responsibilities, please make sure to sign back on by 1 o'clock to attend the rest of our workshop series. We want to make sure that everybody has time to sign in and get accustomed with our moderators and our facilitators and allow them to work through any situations or problems, difficulties that we may have. Remember, to all of you that are involved, and I love the way that you guys are answering each other's questions in the workshops and helping each other know, because really this is what it's about. It's about partnerships and about collaboration. It's about being here for one another. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, do not have any feeling like Dr. Aukahi said about missing out. I think the kids call it FOMO, fear of missing out. For those of you guys that have that term before, do not fear that you guys will have that, ladies and gentlemen, because our team will be recording all the sessions. And in the next coming weeks, once they are processed, we will get those out to you as resources so you guys can visit and see them. So again, have no feeling about anxiety about missing out on another session. By registering, you have full access to all the recordings in the coming weeks. Don't forget that at the end of the day, we have an amazing opportunity to hear from local-born superstar Saleh Tisinoy, better known as Kunishi. Now, for those of you guys that may not be familiar with it, just hold your horses. Do not do any Googling yet, because we have some great and fun times to share with you during that experience. Of course, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and send that over to the Ohana engagement at ksde.edu so that we have individuals in the back helping you out. And of course, we truly invite you again to fill out those surveys and to show Dr. Aukahi Austin Seabury all the love and amazement that she does deserve. At this time, we're going to invite you to go ahead and please join your first breakout for the day. There will be a facilitator and moderator there to greet you and to offer support. We want to, again, mahalo to all of our collaborators and to all of you that are joining us today. We're going to hope that you have an amazing, fun, wonderful day with that amazing start that we had. And of course, we'll see you during the lunch time for entertainment. Stick around, don't miss out. And again, have an amazing day. Mahalo, aloha, and thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you during lunchtime. Aloha.
Aloha.